Hi everybody, welcome again to the nutritional videos for our Ultimate 8-Week Challenge Series 2. This week we'll be discussing fat. Thanks very much for everybody that looked at our video for last week. There was a few really good questions posted online. Hope I got around to answering all of those for you. And so today we're discussing fat. I guess the first maybe controversial thing that we'll talk about with fats is that they are not the enemy. Okay, a lot of people, even when you're trying to lose weight, fats are not the enemy. But what you have to understand is that the quantity that you have is very, very important. Okay, so like with all the other macronutrients, how much you have of it is the most important factor. So with fats, we'll talk about it later, but there'll be a certain amount that we're going to suggest for your regular health. And then depending on your goals, you can then play around with how much you're putting in, all right? But quantity is key when it comes to fat, so keep that in mind. Okay, so the types of fats that you consume are also another key factor. There are three main types of fats in our dietary intake, and the three of them are triglycerides, then you've got your sterols, and you've got your phospholipids. Okay, so your triglycerides are the most important ones. They're the ones that you're going to get from most of your food sources. The other one are your sterols, so think sterol, think cholesterol, alright? So that comes from your food sources as well, and there's a couple of different types. The two major ones are the high-density lipoproteins and the low-density lipoproteins. The low-density lipoproteins are the bad ones. Okay, we'll get onto that a little bit later. High-density is good. And then the other ones that we're talking about are your phospholipids. So this is where fats become an important part of your nutrition, okay? So your phospholipids are important cell structures. They'll actually allow nutrients into and out of cells, and they also help with fluid regulation. So really, really important things, fats, because they do so much in your body. But we want to just try to make sure we stick to the right types, and we'll be discussing triglycerides and your cholesterol or your sterols in a bit further depth. Okay, so just following on with the types of fats, so monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. If you're looking on your food labels, they're the two that you want to see more often, okay? Avoid your saturated fats and your trans fats, all right? They are both very harmful, and they are full of those low-density lipoproteins that we're talking about, all right? They will stick to your artery walls, they will clog up your arteries, and they will increase your blood pressure, and also increase your chance of heart disease and heart attack, which we do not want, especially during an intense class here at FitClub, all right? So avoid those low-density lipoproteins from your saturated and your trans fats, all right? We want to focus more on the polyunsaturated, because that's where you're going to get your omega-3s and your omega-6s, or your monounsaturated fats. So where do we get all our good fats from? Okay, so olive oil is a great one. Good fats in olive oil. You also want to have any of your plant-based oils, so your sunflower oils, and you just want to avoid coconut and palm oil. They're the two you want to avoid, all right? Other places where you can get your really good fats, fatty fish. So your salmons, okay, mackerel, that sort of stuff is excellent. They are full of omega-3s and omega-6s, which is what you need. Nuts and seeds as well. And don't forget the humble avocado. They're all of your good fats, all right? Now, when we're talking bad fats, what we want to avoid is any of your saturated fats, so full-fat butter, okay? Cheeses. So any of your animal fats or animal fat byproducts like your dairies and things like that. So if you go full-fat dairy, that's going to have some bad fats in it, which is why you always want to try the low-fat option with dairy. But avoid your butters, avoid, you know what to avoid, hot chips, pies, pastries. All of that stuff is using that really high bad fat, the LDL. You want to avoid that as much as possible, all right? So stick to the good list, all right? Use your olive oils, and then that way you're getting all of the good stuff inside the body that is going to help you with your training. So we were saying that fats can actually be good for you. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a list as to why they're good for you. Helps with blood pressure, so it helps to regulate blood pressure. Also helps to regulate blood clotting. Okay, so if you have an injury, that's super, super important. Great for heart health. So if you're doing an intense class here at FitClub, heart's going to need to operate very efficiently. So those good fats are excellent for that. Fats are also being linked to things like skin health, hair health, your memory, but also important for us here with our training, anti-inflammatory properties, okay? So some of those good fats will help you recover from your training sessions much faster. So fats are good, quantity and type are what you have to focus on. So how much do we have? The basic ratio that you need to know is that 20 to 30% of all of the energy you take in during your day should come from fat, okay? So depending on your goal, once again, now this is going to be super important. If you're after weight loss or fat loss, you're trying to reduce your body fat, we want to maybe put it down to the bottom 20%, okay? So only take in about 20% of your nutrients from fat. if you're after muscle building or you're doing some long endurance stuff, you might want to then just up that to 25 to 30% of your energy from fat. Okay, so it really is dependent on goals, but somewhere between that 20 and 30% of all of the food that goes into your body should be coming from fats. Now, all of those fats, that 20 to 30%, 100% of it can come from the good fats. Okay, we do not need to have any of that bad fat, no saturated fat. We don't need to have any trans fats. So try to choose your good, healthy options way more than you're going to choose those bad options, right? So olive oil over hot chips. Olive oil wins every time, all right? So stick with that. As far as a gram amount per kilogram goes, I've given that for protein and carbohydrates. So anywhere from 0.5 grams per kilogram of body weight per day to up to 1. Okay, so for someone like me, if I'm taking in 30% of my energy from fat, I will take in about 70 grams. And so I'm about 70 kilos. So that's at the top end of the scale. But by all means, if you're after fat loss, about half, so 0.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. If you weigh 80 kilos, you probably only want to be having about 40 grams of fat. So stick to those numbers and you'll achieve your goals. So there we go, guys, another week done. That's our FATS description. Now that was general information, so if you do have any questions or any follow-up questions or anything else that you need to know, make sure that you comment below and I'll get straight onto that for you. Also check out the description below for all of the good fats that we were describing and the bad fats to avoid. And plus I've just put a little link down there as well. That's just taking you to a site. It's called the Mayo Clinic. They do a lot of research on health and fitness. And it's got a really good thing about dietary fats. So have a read over that and that might give you some ideas apart from what I've already described. But once again, if you have any questions, make sure you comment and we'll get straight onto it for you. Next week, we're going to be talking about timing of food. Okay, so when to have that. That's going to be super important, especially for all of the macronutrients. So I hope you all tune in then and I look forward to seeing you then. Cheers. Hola, mi nombre es Ben. Esta semana hablaremos de grasas.
Muy bien. I can't do it.
I can't do it.
No puedo hablar español.
No hablar español.